What is up, everyone? This is Connor and Rob here at the Civ House. Here today for our updated leader tier list, something we've been wanting to come out with for a long time. And so, again, just very excited to get this out today. For those that don't know, we put out a tier list right before launch, kind of covering where we thought the leaders would fall. Safe to say we have some different thoughts now that the game's been out for a little bit. We've each logged a lot of hours in the game. And so, Rob, excited to talk about our updated tier list today, yeah?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a lot more hours in the game for sure, a lot more opinions, a lot more things that have been read. 2 new leaders, Connor.
True.
Ada and Simone have been added, so
yep,
definitely some cool additions and some things we got to discuss, because I was looking back on our tier list last time.
Yeah.
To say that we were far off on some of these would be an understatement. We will talk about that at some point, by the way. Maybe at the end, we'll go over the biggest changers.
Yep.
So each one. And yeah, you go.
Yeah, so I'll kind of set up just some quick caveats for this. So obviously we're doing this based on how viable we think these leaders are just across the board. We're not pairing them with any individual civs. We have some antiquity age, and we have all the ages pairings already kind of broken out in other videos. But for this, we're just going for overall viability. So that takes into consideration how seed dependent they are, how adaptable they are, how maybe they're the best min-maxer at one part of the game. How good are they at utilizing what are currently some of the game's better resources, like maybe production, for example, right? We're going to be comparing it to our previous list. We're going to take into consideration what civs they unlock in different ages, their starting position. Obviously, their abilities are going to be the main thing that we're using to rate these leaders, but we're trying to take all of it into consideration. We've already kind of sorted out what the list looks like on the back end, but at the end of this, Rob and I are each going to get to move one leader up or down one tier, and that will give us our final list. But might as well just get it kicked off. You mentioned Ada earlier, Rob, and she is going to be going in alphabetical order. Our first leader that we're going to be rating. Where do we have A, Rob? Or where do we have Ada? A. There we go. Yeah. Spoiler.
Real quick, by the way, make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe so you're not missing out on any of the Civ content that we're putting out. Come on. Join our Civ family. We love having you guys. And let us know in the comments if we're missing anything, or if you disagree, because I'm sure you will. I may not have even had to say that one. You guys probably were going to disagree anyways. But Ada, what an interesting addition, Connor.
Yeah.
The Enchantress of Numbers. Very, very interesting ability for her. She is one of the queens of science and culture. And she was somebody who I felt was very strong from the beginning. Then people started playing her a little bit. I know you had some reservations a little bit about her, kind of to get her going, but we did end up deciding that she was going to be A tier, Connor. Our very first A tier, not just because of her name, but it just feels like, yes, some of it's dependent on going down the mastery trees and all that, right? But if you're building her right and her yields are good, then you're going to be just printing science and printing culture. And as long as you have a good enough army to hold off the eventual attack that will come before the end of the game, you should be in a good position. So we put her there in A. Do you have anything you want to add? But I was pretty happy with this.
Yeah, I think that we're going to get into it later a little bit more, but I think the biggest comparison with Ada here is how she competes with like a Catherine the Great kind of character, or even to a degree like a Confucius, like a pure science or pure culture kind of play. I think that, like you said, she's serviceable against both, really strong. I've seen some videos of some folks in the community that have achieved great things with Ada. I've enjoyed her on some playthroughs as well. So you also get Great Britain in the modern age as a free unlock, which, trying to be again holistic about all this, Great Britain's a great civ to have in the modern age, I feel. So A tier for us, which we named the tiers after difficulties in the game to kind of be a little bit fun. Why not? So she's an immortal tier. Yeah.
Welcome to immortal tier.
Welcome to immortal. Now, not going to be an immortal tier is Amina, who we actually have in governor tier, Rob, which is essentially C tier. Listen, the resource capacity is great. Everyone right now, I've seen some recent discourse in the community about how camels are just kind of breaking Civ 7. I completely agree. And to that end, resource capacity is a really strong thing to leverage. However, because those exist, I don't really feel like this ability is that big of a deal. Like the +1 gold per age for resources assigned to cities is good. +5 combat strength for all units in plains and desert is good, especially because that is your starting seed is plains or desert. So you are going to be strong. However, it just doesn't feel like Amina stacks up against the other economic military playstyles in the game.
Yeah, she's definitely not the worst one, but she's not great either. She's not one of the first ones I'm going to for either as somebody who is an economic and militaristic player.
Yep.
I really thought I was going to like her. I played with her a little bit. She's okay. She's not bad, right? Like, that's why she's not in whatever. What's D tier again?
D tier is scribe.
Scribe.
Yeah.
We should just call it scrub tier. But, there's just better options, I think, is one of the big things for her. And, it's just so dependent on your combat strength. And I think sometimes when you have that, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword. Getting plains and desert is good, to be clear, but you're fighting basically in the middle of the map. And especially if you try to go too far north or too far south, you'll start to get in the tundra, and it takes away your ability to really kind of fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then let's not even mention the fact that, like, that's not anything good during the exploration age, really, either.
Yeah.
So, you're doing some ship combat, not as great. So she's not going to send you across all ages feeling necessarily all that great. That's why they put that +1 gold for age. And I think that's the main reason that's keeping her out of scribe tier. I wanted to say scrub so bad.
Yeah. That's fair. But yeah, so we've got Amina in governor. Moving along now, we've got Ashoka World Conqueror. Rob, we actually initially had Ashoka World Conqueror in governor, but I think moving him up to sovereign with a little hotfix here isn't a bad call. I'll let you kind of debate that with me a little bit if you want, but I don't mind changing this list live a little bit, because the more I think about this, happiness is something that you can stack and you can achieve high levels of. And with production kind of being the dominant resource, I just don't think we can keep him in governor tier. What do you think? Is that all right with you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, that I was kind of feeling like it felt like he was a little low. I would have put him maybe near the top of it. You guys will see, we did rank them, by the way, within the tier as well. So
yeah.
I'm glad that we're making this change, to be honest with you, because I do think that, like, +5 combat strength is one of the best leader abilities in terms of, like, pure strength. And I know it's against districts for all units during a celebration, but, like, dude, you're going through towns, or through cities, towns, whatever. And if you're stacking happiness, you're on that, sort of celebration train. It's not going to be a bad thing, to say the least. So, and declaring a formal war, getting a celebration, you're instantly, like, if you, like, declare that war right before you're going into the town, into the city, you're going to be in a great spot. So you can kind of stack that. It is just a little more time dependent. It's a little more difficult to play this style, but that doesn't necessarily make him bad. That was one of the comments I remember from the last video, Connor, was like, well, you're just putting the ones that are more difficult. That's not entirely true. We're not just putting the ones that are easiest. It's just some of them are easy and they're good, right? Some of them are not. And you have to consider as well, like, what's going to be good each age. Because I don't think that, this isn't the tier list for antiquity or exploration age or any of that. So this is just overall, and I feel like this one translates overall. And like you said, you can get a ton of production going. People could argue for him to be a little higher. We initially had him higher. We'll talk about that later as well. But I'm okay with this.
Part of it is I don't want to go. Not that there's a hive mind with this, but I think with production and its strength, I don't want to just unequivocally say that is the only way to build a really optimal leader civ combo in this game. I know it is extremely viable, and so seeing production on this makes our brains think like, oh, this is really good. That very well could be the case. I'm sure there are some games where Ashoka World Conqueror just absolutely dominates because of this, and is building things really quickly and constantly in formal war, constant celebration, all that. Like, I can see this being really dominant. But again, I think there are enough strong leaders that we're going to rank above Ashoka World Conqueror to justify this. But I could, again, thinking of the comments already, I can already see this being one of our hottest takes right away. But we've only just begun, folks. So buckle in, because now we're getting down to Ashoka World Renouncer, who... Is this going to be our first scribe tier, Rob?
Scrub-a-dub-dub.
I think it is.
Put
Scribe.
him down there.
Yep. So this is a similar kind of idea, right? So you have +1 food in cities for every 5 excess happiness, plus 10% food in all settlements during a celebration. Buildings gain a +1 happiness adjacency for all improvements. You unlock, just like World Conqueror, Chola, and the Nepal civs. This does not feel good in really any way. Not only because food's not very strong, but just because, it just looks like flat out Ashoka World Conqueror just gives you more in every way than this.
Well, and I think that's the problem, is it's like food. I remember at the beginning when we first started playing, it was like, I don't remember which, person it was, but they were like, food is so important. I was like, oh, okay, World Renouncer is going to be great. As you get into the game a little bit more, you start to realize that, yeah, food can help you kind of grow out, but like, this doesn't really do anything else, right? Like, you're working towards legacy paths. Where is this helping you with some of these legacy paths? It's kind of not, to a certain degree. So if this was older Civ, if this was Civ 6, Civ 5, I'd be like, oh, this seems pretty good, right? Like, it's a nice way to expand. But if you're working towards these legacy paths, I just don't think World Renouncer is hitting those as successfully as others.
Sure. Yep, I'm kind of with you. I don't think there's a ton more to say about Renouncer. If you think really strongly differently about this, I'd be interested to hear why in the comments of this video, honestly. But for us, we just have not found a reason to go anywhere above Scribe. But on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, Rob, we've got Augustus. And this is, the way this worked out is pretty funny because he is going to be our first in deity tier, giving us kind of 1 in each tier to start, which is funny. Not something we necessarily planned, but I don't see how you can keep Augustus out of S tier, which we are really trying to focus on S tier for this tier list being very, very good. Like, we think if you play these leaders, you can play them with almost any civ, and they should be viable. Like, they should be.
Yeah.
Because of their traits. Really incredible. For those new to Augustus, +2 production in the capital for every town is a wild bonus. Unbelievably wild, especially I think with something like Carthage or Rome, whatever, right? Can purchase culture buildings in towns, 50% towards purchasing buildings in towns. Is just amazing. So ton of great stuff to say about Augustus. But I think you've probably played a little bit more Augustus than me, Rob. What do you think?
Yeah, I love Augustus.
Yeah.
I think he just feels good. I think he's one of the best feeling leaders in the game as well. And what I mean by that is there's just sometimes kind of a natural feel. Maybe it's just the way I play, but I feel like across so many things I've seen, he's just one of the best. And not to, there are others that have issues of their own, but like, he's unlocking Egyptian, Roman, Bulgarian, Spanish, French Imperial, Prussian, Carthaginian, and Abbasid. That is wild. There's just so many options for you to play through the game as well. I will say he's also probably one of the easiest civs, or leaders to play with, and just in general. That does not take away from the fact that he's also, if not the strongest, one of the strongest. And it's not just because he's quote unquote easy for people to pick up and learn how to do. He just works well with so many things. And it makes it hard, kind of, to be honest with you, not to put Augustus in S tier. We'll have to see where he ends up in terms of the other S tier leaders that we'll have in this. But I just want to quickly talk about just like, you are able to build your towns up so significantly before you turn them into cities. It's wild. And you may not even have to. You don't have to necessarily turn them into cities. So, and you're just making Rome just a machine. I mean, it's just churning out wonders, churning out units, churning out whatever you need. It just makes Rome like probably the best capital in the game. And yeah, it's tough to beat, man. It's just tough to beat.
I'm with you. I think that this is like we talk about adaptability as kind of like a spectrum in this game, and I think Augustus is of any leader maybe the most adaptable to any playstyle. There's only one other one that I can think that would compete, and that's Eben. But still, and we'll get to him later. But let's move along to our friend Benjamin Franklin. For those who don't know his ability, it's +1 science per age on production buildings and cities, plus 50% production towards constructing production buildings, +1 science per age from active endeavors you have started or supported, and you can have 2 endeavors of the same type going at the same time. I'm reading some of these because I had some feedback on a video that people liked the full readout of abilities in case they're just listening on a second monitor. So this is for you, commenter. But we have Ben Franklin in governor tier, Rob, ahead of Amina. And honestly, this is one where I'm conflicted on how to feel about this because I am a huge diplomacy player and I really love that aspect of the game. We just did a video on how I think there should be a diplomacy legacy path, and that I still think that should be the case, right? If there were one of those, Ben would be significantly higher. Now, his endeavors can give you great things towards science, towards culture. Like, you're going to be double stealing science all the time with him, which could allow him to compete with the likes of a Harriet Tubman or Confucius with science. However, I think this is one that looks better on paper than it actually plays out in real games. I have just never found Ben to feel better to play than some of those other leaders we're talking about. So he just falls down the list because of that. A lot of this is the comparison game. And he just fails, I think, by comparison.
Yeah, it's just like you got to have all these endeavors going, right, to really make it work, which means you got to have people who actually like you and want to do that, right? And it's just, when you have to rely on the CPU for stuff, sometimes it can feel a little tougher to not just play, but to actually be able to stack the way that you want to, I think. So it's disappointing as, Americans ourselves, but he's just not that good. He's not terrible, but he's just not that good.
You do get the America unlock, though, worth mentioning that. I think America is among the best modern age civs, if not the best. So that is something Ben Franklin has going for him. I could see people arguing for him being in a B tier maybe, but I really don't see how you can make the case for anything A or higher with him. I think B is really his ceiling. But regardless, let's move on to another leader, Rob, and that is Catherine the Great.
Yeah, one that we didn't think was very good in the past, but has definitely moved her way up. She's right there with Ada in terms of being that civ science leader. I like the older versions of her, to be honest with you, but I do not mind this one. I think it's still pretty good. I'll read it this time. You're getting the +2 culture per age on displayed great works. Buildings with great work slots gain an additional slot. Cities settled in tundra gain science equal to 25% of their culture per turn. So a lot of this is kind of, building on, I think, the seeding problem as well, which you get, that tundra bias. No problems there. But it really comes down to the fact that, I think that's what's holding her back from being better than Ada, being better overall. She's still not bad. You can stack stuff with her. You can get it. I've seen some insane yields that you guys are finding out there with her, without a doubt. Right. But I do think that she has her limitations, is the way I will put it. And I think that they are stronger than a few of the other options.
Yeah, this is one. By the way, she is in Sovereign tier, which is B tier. I put her above Ashoka World Renouncer. I think that's which Ashoka that is, at least. But this is one where Rob and I disagree a little bit, or at least there's some contentiousness between us about this, because I think Ada there's a world that she's better, where Catherine is better than Ada. I think partially because of the bias start, because you usually start in this isolated tundra where no one is going to be fighting you. I will shout out another Civ creator here, One More Turn, just had a recent video kind of going through a crazy start with Catherine, and it really did open my eyes to how good this leader can be. So shout out One More Turn, great stuff. But I think, to Rob's point, I think that from a consistency basis, I do think we put her in Sovereign tier, and that does feel good. I think one great seed in one video does not make a leader A tier or S tier necessarily for me. So we think Ada is just a bit more reliable, a bit more consistent here. You get Russia as a Civ unlock. That's pretty good. I'm not a crazy fan of Russia necessarily, but yeah, this is another one where I think in some games Catherine's ceiling could be S tier, but I also think the floor could be, C tier or high D. Yeah. So very wide spectrum. But let's move it along to our next leader, Rob, and that's going to be Charlemagne. The Father of Europe perk here gives you Military and science buildings receive a happiness adjacency for quarters. You gain 2 cavalry units once unlocked when entering a celebration. +5 combat strength for cavalry units during a celebration. So, the obvious, thing here with Charlemagne is you play him with Mongolia in the exploration age, and it just feels...
Or Bulgaria now.
Yeah, now Bulgaria as well. It just feels really, really good to kind of play, that, never leave the continent, dominate your continent kind of play style. Maybe even with, Persia in the Antiquity Age or something. Even still, though, we have him in sovereign tier behind the 2 leaders already there, because it just... I don't know. We're going to get into some of the other military leaders later, but I just don't think Charlemagne can hold up against those necessarily, Rob.
Well, I think it's that, and then like we've talked about before, it's pretty it's civ dependent, which is I understand that you're going to go into a game, you're going to pick Charlemagne, and you're going to pick one of those civs that I talked about, right? That's just how it's going to go. But I don't love that. Personally, I think that, again, I think that limits him, right? There are limits to some of these leaders. What those are, I guess maybe I just personally rank some stuff on how flexible something is. Yeah. But, I do think that if you're looking at this is a tier list of overall leaders, right? The ability to be flexible is definitely a positive.
Right.
Charlemagne is probably one of the least flexible leaders, to be honest with you. And if you can't set yourself up to have those, cavalry units, then you're going to get in trouble. So, because that's pretty much all he does. So, you want to be stacking those. And obviously you can get basic cavalry units as well. I'm not saying that you can't, but the +5 combat strength, I think, really helps him as well. I've seen different tier lists that have had him in, that immortal, that A tier for us in the past as well, and I could see it, but my last point that I'll make is, as a reminder, right, we are working towards victory conditions, right, legacy points, and outside of the military one, does he really have a great shot? He's considered scientific as well, and it's kind of not really. No. So I'm not saying that I don't love him. I think he can be paired with some stuff pretty well, but he's militaristic. You want to get cavalry. It takes away a little bit of it if you can't get your cavalry going in a good way.
Yep. And I mean, we're going to talk about some other military leaders coming up, obviously, but military in Civ 7 right now just feels like something every leader kind of has to do because it's the only way to move around the map right now. And then with the way the AI settles their settlements, you just have to fight. So, I mean, everyone's doing military. It's how can you do everything else? That I think is more the question. I will say, last thing, river starting bias is good. Having a river is just strong if you're getting it most of the time. But speaking of strong most of the time, Confucius is our next leader up.
Yeah.
And Confucius is strong all the time. That's why we have him in immortal tier above Ada Lovelace. His ability is one that I bet everyone knows, but it's plus 25% growth rate in all cities, +2 science from specialists. So this is one of those abilities, you're talking about victory paths, Rob, that really scales into the late game, maybe stronger than any other leader in the game. So really an unreal ability from Confucius.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's really all the game, right? Because you're able to get your cities really set up well. The biggest thing, though, is that it's in cities. That's what kept him out of S tier for me, just so you know. Getting all your towns to cities takes time, right? Being able to do so in a significant way, I think, can also take time. Like you said, that's why he scales. It's the only thing that keeps him away, because if it was in cities and towns, I don't know that there would be a better leader in the game. That plus 25% growth rate is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And it's what's going to allow you to have, the massive city that you need, and then you're able to just start plopping down those, specialists, getting those insane, science yields. There's just no doubt. It's very good. I've played a little bit of him. He's very solid. There's no doubt about it. He's better than solid. He's great, to be honest. But he just missed out on being an S tier for us right now, and is one that I have wavered on whether or not we put him into S tier. I know we got ripped apart for where we ranked him initially.
Was it C tier? Totally
understandable. He was in C tier. So, we moved him up, but do understand that there are still, again, limitations
Yeah.
And Confucius is very, 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 very strong. It's just there's just a little bit that's missing from him that I think that takes him to like that absolutely top tier next level.
Yeah, I'll make a couple points as well. I mean, I think there's no better leader in the game for the exploration science legacy path. I mean, with the yields on tiles, Confucius should be blasting people with that. I mean, he should always be achieving crazy yields because of the science he's getting from specialists. But like, I think to the people who are big Confucius fans, I think the devil's advocate in me is like, we have him and Ada very close to each other on this tier list, but you can make the case that Ada could be better for science in some games than Confucius because of what she gets from science from culture. And so, again, I think that Confucius is very strong. He unlocks some great civs with the Ming and the King. And so we eventually gave him the nod, but Confucius one from an adaptability standpoint is a little weak, but because of the min-maxing potential with science, feels very, very strong. Someone who we don't feel like is in the same conversation though is Friedrich Baruch. His ability, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but he gains a great work upon capturing a settlement for the first time, and he gains infantry unit when you construct a culture building. We have him at essentially the bottom of sovereign tier, bottom of B tier, after Charlemagne. This is one that Rob and I also kind of debated about, so we have, I think, slightly different opinions on. I'm not as big on Friedrich Baruch, and I have done a playthrough with him with Persia in the Antiquity Age, and it felt really, really, really strong. I mean, it just felt like you were constantly pushing people around, gaining a lot of units, kind of refilling that way. But I also think if I had had a different leader in that playthrough, I could have been even more dominant. So for me, he's held back a bit, but Rob, I'd be curious what you think.
I'm going to try to pronounce it. I think it's Hohen Friedberger.
Yeah, okay.
Marsh.
Nice. All right.
I think I nailed it.
Fair enough.
I'm pumped. I don't know why, but I was like, I kind of want to say it,
Say it. Yeah.
Look, I think culturally, right, like getting all those great works and everything, I think it makes him really strong through multiple different ages for the cultural legacy path. To be honest with you, I think that's kind of like where you need to go with him, and you can do so militarily to where you can protect yourself, but you're also going out and capturing stuff, right? And I mean, the fact that you can gain great works when you're capturing settlements for the first time, like, dude, you get to that exploration age and you need to start getting those relics and stuff, bro. You just start going ham. And so I think it's that. And he's like, there are a couple civs that are really snowbally, right? And I think that that's where it's like, if you don't get the snowball rolling, then you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
That being said, like Friedrich, I mean, you're just getting infantry units. You're just stacking them and stacking them. And it's just because if you think about it, right, you're getting those new settlements. So you're getting the great works. And then every time you're constructing a new cultural building for them, you can basically, like you said, refill your army and just send them on to the next town.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can get your economy going as well decently. So if, you maybe pick a civ with that in mind, that can make him really strong. So I don't think that he's like anywhere near the best cultural, anywhere near the best militaristic. But I think he is smack dab pretty freaking close into the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those where, again, it's nice when you're playing a military leader to get something from being militaristic versus just rolling over people. And at least you get culture from this, so it can feel good in that way. But otherwise, I agree, somewhat lackluster. Also, for fans of symmetry right now, our tier list is about as symmetrical as you can get. It's beautiful. So we're going to ruin that real quick, though, because we got...
Hey, but it's not intentional.
That's true.
Not intentional.
Frederick Oblique is next. And Rob, I think we have him in governor tier, correct?
Yep, yeah, that's so. Where we got him right now.
In between Ben and Amina, I believe. This one, army commanders start with the merit combination, granting them +1 command radius, and you get an infantry unit when you construct a science building, so kind of the science version of Baruch. But instead of getting great works when you get a settlement, you just get a merit combination with your commander.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't want to underrate starting with a commander upgrade. That can be very strong. However, there are some other leaders out there. I think Trung Trac is like this, where you just start with 3 of them, right? So
yeah,
it feels like this is just bad. mean, I think there's a case to be made for him being in D tier, but we went ahead and put him in C because I think you can make this work, but this just doesn't feel good, Rob.
Again, I think it's just being able to get those stacking infantry units, right? So one of the things we also look at when we're doing these tier lists is what is the purpose of the leader, right? What are they trying to do? This is another snowbally one, and if you're already having a commander that has that range, right, that means you need less commanders to a certain degree, right? And you can command a much bigger army. It kind of fits. It makes sense. It's a little bit better on paper than in practice from what I've seen, but it's more that he's just not terrible. He's not good. Do not get me wrong. You could make the argument that he belongs in scrub tier, without a doubt. Put him down there and I would be like, oh, I could see it. But I just think, if you're going to play as a militaristic civ, and you have an army commander that has already, a +1 at all, I think that's pretty strong. And then when you can kind of print units while you are building out your science, because that's kind of your victory condition if you don't win in the military, that can be pretty good, right? So it just depends on the playthrough that you get. But yeah, that's where I'm going to put him, and I think we're fine with it. We're fine.
So next up, we've got a personal favorite of mine, probably my favorite leader in the game. So a little bit of bias coming through here, but I have a lot to say. That's Harriet Tubman. We have Harriet Tubman in S tier behind Augustus. So we have Augustus currently number 1. So her ability is plus 50% influence towards initiating espionage actions, plus 5 war support on all wars declared against you. Units ignore movement penalties from vegetation. You start in vegetated tiles with a bias, and you unlock America in the modern age. This, honestly, Rob, as a kit, is about as complete as you could want. Now, I'll go ahead and say I'll get the bad out of the way first. I've played a lot of hours on Harriet Tubman, many of them live on the channel with the Let's Play. Culture is something that is difficult to come by. Now, there are some civs you can play along the way to help supplement this and give you some cultural bonuses and whatnot. And you're getting, from stealing culture through espionage, which you're doing a lot, you are going to be able to steal some. However, with science, diplomacy, and military, I feel like Harriet Tubman is about as strong of a leader as you could ask for in the game. It just feels unbelievably complete. So, Rob, I could just, go on and on about how strong I think Harriet Tubman is, especially the vegetated tiles. You play her with the Maya, and you're laying traps with your Jaguar Slayers. It's unbelievable. Anyone with Maya is good. Yeah. But any other thoughts from you about Harriet Tubman?
Dude, 5 war support is so crazy good. That is so... And then you're already getting... I know that the influence goes towards espionage acts, but it's like... I don't know, man. She seems very sharp. I've not played her much. I've only watched your playthroughs with her. And even that just looks absolutely insane to me. There was no doubt in my mind when we were making this tier list that she was gonna pump her way right up to S tier. Yep. We didn't realize how good war support was when we first made this.
Correct.
And I can tell you that it is just crazy good, man. You just piss somebody off with espionage, then you get them to attack you, and then you just go ham on them afterwards, and it's just wild. And then you're moving through places that they can't. She's almost like an assassin in Civ. She's almost like the version of an assassin in Civ, and she's by far and away the best one. It's not even close. When it comes to that.
And I mean, you're playing so much of the game with influence, and you're getting discounts on everything with influence. So even when a war is declared on you, you get the 5 war support. Usually you have enough influence to throw 1 or 2 more to support yourself. I've had wars with plus 9 war support as Harriet Tubman before, and you're just never going to lose a fight. You could be under-leveled, you could be behind on kind of the military tech tree, which you're not going to be with Harriet Tubman because you're also going to be ahead on tech, so you should have high-level units going to war with crazy war support. It just is so unbelievable to play. I don't know how it hasn't been nerfed, but yeah, Harriet Tubman, very clear deity tier for us. Let's move to the literal other end of the spectrum, though, Rob, with Hatshepsut.
Again.
And she is going to remain in scrub tier for us at the very back of it right now. Her ability is +1 culture for every imported resource. Meh. Plus 15% production towards the construction of buildings and wonders in cities adjacent to navigable rivers. That is a good ability, but 15% does not really move the dial for me that much. So I don't know how you can make a great case for her in this game.
I think the bigger problem with it is that it's in cities that are adjacent to navigable rivers, right? You have to like, it's only basically in your capital. You have to
It's very sea dependent.
And not just that, but it's like there are so many extra bits to like, oh, you can't, like if it was just a straight plus 15 production towards building, buildings and wonders, that would, and even if it was just in cities, it'd be like, oh, okay, that's not bad. But you're dependent on being able to trade with somebody else. You're dependent on your seed. There's just too many dependencies. If you want a really hard playthrough of Civilization right now, play her.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Oh, sorry. Last point here, real quick.
Yeah.
You also have a bias towards deserts, which have less rivers. So it's like you kind of get your starting river, and then it can be a little tougher to get the other ones. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yeah. Let's move right along to our first of the two Himikos now. Himiko High Shaman is first, so she gets she's cultural diplomatic leader. She does unlock Meiji Japan, which is nice, but her ability is +2 happiness per age on happiness buildings, +50% production towards constructing happiness buildings, +20% culture, but -10% science. These effects are doubled during a celebration. You're certainly playing a min-max playstyle with this. But I believe we had Himiko High Shaman pretty high, yeah?
Oh, we did. I believe that she is in Immortal tier.
That is behind Ada Lovelace.
Because those celebrations doubling is insanity. And I know it hurts your science. I totally understand that. But you're not playing her to win a science victory. You are playing her to keep your science good enough so that your culture just takes over and helps you win the game, right? It's, culture's pretty strong. It's probably the strongest it's been in a Civ game that I can really remember. And I just think like you're getting that 50% production bonus towards happiness buildings. Like this kit works so well together as well. It's crazy. It really is, Connor. Like she is very strong. She's not S tier, but she is very strong. She has noticeable weaknesses. And they had to put, I think they had to put that -10% science because otherwise I think she'd be way, way, way too strong. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, we're comparing her obviously in that same tier with Confucius and Ada Lovelace, which I think she's appropriately behind those two.
Yes.
I think you can make a case for her being maybe a little lower, but again, I think this is one where I'm okay being a little bit bullish on. The science is kind of the one prick, the one thorn in the side, is if it really can't hold you back. But 10%, again, we're talking about numbers, not necessarily moving the dial. That's one of them. You could still be proficient in science with her as well, depending on how the game plays out. But other Himiko, Friend of Wei, I believe. You gained a unique endeavor, Friend of Wei, which can be performed in an alliance to grant you and your ally 25% science. Can support endeavors for free. Great ability. +4 science per age for every leader you're friendly or helpful with. You also unlock Meiji with her. No starting biases for either of the Himikos, by the way. We have this Himiko, however, I think a little bit lower in Sovereign tier, yeah?
Sovereign?
Yep.
Yeah, so, Queen of Wa, by the way, Wa, something like that.
Yeah.
She is very reliant on her friends. And in a game where you can go from being best friends with somebody to being attacked, that is not great.
Yeah.
Now, if you could consistently find a way to where it's like you're not just going to get attacked by another leader because you're in an alliance with them, and I know you kind of can, but like the amount of times I've been backstabbed and stuff like that just because of maybe they're in an alliance with somebody else who kind of has, that pact to go to war with them. So no matter how close you are, they still have to go to war with you. Like, I don't love having to rely especially on the CPU. And she's like one of the most reliant, but she's so freaking strong if you have good alliances, if you have friendly allies and then just friendly other leaders. I mean, and that support endeavors for free is so good.
Yeah.
Dude, you can use that influence on so many other things. You can use it on war support. You can use it on, maybe trying to grab some city states in case if you really can't expand as easily. Like, there's a lot of really, really, really good parts to this. to this kit, and I've seen it in use. I've seen it in use against me. I intentionally try not to be friends with this Himiko if I can help it, because she has been a problem for me in the past. But she can get very far ahead as well on that science tree, very quickly.
Yeah, Rob, I like your point though. I mean, it's the dependency on the CPU is a variable that we just really don't need. I mean, you can play other leaders and have success with science. I mean, she's diplomatic scientific, which Harriet Tubman also is. I would take Harriet Tubman every single time over this Himiko. Now, that being said, like you said, this Himiko Queen of Wa can also scale, probably just as good as Harriet Tubman, but it's so dependent on things. Why would you do it? But anyway, obviously another option for those that love science for sure, but just lower tier for us.
No doubt. And we've got Ibn Battuta next, dude.
Oh yeah,
I'm pumped.
Yep, this is your boy.
Love me some Ibn. Yeah. Marvels of Travel gains multiple attribute points after the first civic in every age. Increased sight for all units. Gain a unique endeavor called Trade Maps that lets you gradually see other leaders' explored areas. Bro, most flexible in the game. It's not even close. The multiple attribute points after the first civic in every age is pretty wild, to be honest with you. You're getting that wild card as well, which allows you to have, even more, or I think that might be the main part of the beginning of this, regardless.
Yeah.
Then you have the sight, which sight's big, right? I think right at the beginning of the game, a lot of people were trying to figure out how to quickly get as much sight as possible on their scouts. It makes Ibn really strong early with scouts. It also makes him really strong late when you're trying to figure out what is going on, right, within the game. Trade Maps is great, I think, as well. I know a lot of people are going to be like, I don't know how I'm feeling about him. He is not going to be in Deity. He's just not. I don't think there will ever be a version of Ibn Battuta that gets into Deity. But I have no problem putting him here in Immortal Honor, because I just think he's got a lot of things that he can kind of do by not having anything to do, almost. It's a weird kind of juxtaposition for him, but he's the only one in the game as well that has sight. I also will say I think he could go down if there's another leader in the future that gets a better sight bonus. So it's just really cool, and it's nice to be able to see other empires, especially when you get blocked off really early. The ability to kind of see what else is going on the map is very, very nice, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this even for you is kind of like Harriet Tubman for me. I've not played even a bunch, but I've seen you play them, and it looks awesome. I've started so many Civ games in Antiquity or Advanced Art games even, where I get like 50 turns in, and I'm like, man, I actually think that this strategy would be a bit more optimal, and I have a hard time pivoting. For all of those moments, Ibn is the best leader to be playing, because he is, I think, pretty flexible. Even though you end up spending those wildcard points up front, I think there still is room to, like, when you see the seed, when you're going to get the Civ you want, especially like we did that Antiquity Age kind of challenge video where we did picks and bans. I think in hindsight, Ibn is S tier in that format, where you're going to have, like I picked Tecumseh and you banned Greece, that immediately made Tecumseh much worse. So Ibn does not face that kind of issue. So solid A tier for us on Ibn for sure.
No doubt.
That's going to move us to Isabella, a favorite of a lot of people's, and understandably so. She gains 300 gold every time you discover a natural wonder, and that is doubled if the natural wonder is in distant lands. Plus 100% tiles yields from natural wonders, plus 50% gold towards purchasing naval units, and minus 1 gold maintenance for naval units. So a lot to like here, so much so that we have Isabella in deity tier behind Harriet Tubman. This one I think we had wrong at the beginning, is fair to say, because we weren't quite sure how much of the bias would give you wonders and what that percentage looks like. I have still started Isabella games without a wonder in my capital, and it's been something that has been a problem for me in those games. That being said, most of the time you are able to encounter one, and this feels unbelievable, Rob, to play.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody, this is a flat 300 gold. So your speed of game as well can be very affected, right? Gold is kind of scaled based on how, do you play marathon, do you play online, like what kind of way. But you're getting a flat 300 gold every time. And then when you're going through the exploration age, you're getting those, that -1 gold maintenance on naval units. You're getting 50% gold towards purchasing. You are exploring the map. I almost wish you could combine her with Eben, because it's like if you got her and Eben's ability, like she would be the most busted unit. It wouldn't even be close. But like you said, she is a little tile dependent, and that's the only reason why we were a little bit confused. But it's like, dude, if you get the right seed, you get the Mount Everest seed. They just added Mount Everest, and you can see every other mountain on your continent. That is absolutely ridiculous. There are some other ones that are obviously very good. That's the one that's just coming to
Torrey de Pine is crazy. There's a lot of really good.
Oh yeah,
wonders.
Torrey de Pine is insanely good. She's just, natural wonders are a big part of the game, and the fact that you can potentially just start out right next to one, and you can gain gold from it right away, like those are free units. Those are free buildings on a regular basis when you're able to find those. And normally there's like 6 or 7 in a game, maybe 8. And if you're able to get those doubled, I mean, you are rolling in it. I mean, you could have 3,000 plus gold just from this. And I think that's just really insanely strong, to be honest with you. And I'm happy to admit we were wrong on that one. I hope nobody's gonna, bust us too much on that one. No. But I do think that the only reason she's not at the very top of S tier is because of that start bias need.
Yeah.
And again, we take all things into consideration. If you're an online player and you don't get that right seed, dude, you're done with her. Like, she can be very, very hard to pilot after that. So gotta keep that in mind as well.
You get the Spanish and the Mexican civs unlocked as well. Those are 2 good civs. Spain and Mexico. Really coastal natural wonder start preference is really strong. So it feels like Isabella and Eben are both honestly very flexible. We just kind of tilt slightly towards Isabella here, but I do think there's a conversation where you could flip flop them maybe, depending on kind of playstyle preference. But let's move on to now
Rizzler.
J Rizzy, Jose Rizal. I'll read his bonus, which I'm also not going to try and pronounce. You want to go for this one again, Rob? You want to try and pronounce it? Put you on the spot.
Mbansong Biani.
Yep, that's exactly it. Surely.
I don't know. Let's see.
But this is when you're gaining rewards from a narrative event, gain additional culture and gold per age, increased celebration duration, and happiness towards celebration has additional narrative events. You get Hawaii, and you get a tropical starting bias. This, however, just smells like nothing, and so we put J Rizzy at the bottom of scribe tier. So sad, because stylistically, besides maybe the new leader Simone, Jose Rizal is the drippiest leader of them all. I've always been a big J Rizzy fan. I think my first or second game I ever played in this game was with Jose Rizal, because I wanted him to be good, And on paper, it sounds cool to have more narrative events, kinda, but it's terrible, Rob. It just flat out he's terrible.
Yeah, you can't even control some of the times when you get narrative events. It's just like, okay, it's cool. It's a nice gimmick.
Yeah, it's exactly it's a good word for it. It's a gimmicky leader. Yeah.
And it's sad because it's like there's so much more they could have done with him, to be honest with you. But I appreciate that they stuck to him, being a writer, all that stuff. Like, it's cool. I get it. But like, man, everybody, I think he's from Indonesia. Is that right? Initially, sure. Let me check real quick. I think they have it in his bio. Give me 2 seconds here, guys.
But
Filipino. Okay. Sorry, Filipino.
Yeah.
And there's so many Filipino people who were very excited about him getting added into the game. I remember I saw his announcement. People were losing their minds. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting that representation. This is great." And then they do this to him.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I really could not believe it. It's very sad because I think he should be. I would not hate it if they added something else to make him a little bit better in the future.
I have a suggestion, Rob. This is a perfect segue.
Do it.
This is the one way you make Jose Rizal playable, is you give him a percentage chance on narrative events to convert that tile into a city or a town. That he can inspire the people he meets, and they can found a commune, and you make him...
That would be sick.
You make him, instead of cultural diplomatic, you make him cultural expansionist. Yep.
Yeah.
And you just...
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be sick.
Then you encourage exploring. You have all these little towns and cities around. You could change the way his benefits work that way. But right now, narrative events are not strong enough in their own. They need to be special narrative events, not just additional. They need to be different kinds of narrative events just for him. Then you'd see people playing him. But until then, meh.
Doesn't he have that?
He has additional narrative events, but they're not like different in any way.
I haven't played him, so I didn't notice. I haven't seen anybody say it, but
yeah. Open to other advice and suggestions in the comments, though, of how you'd improve Jose Rizal. If you think he's bottom tier, we certainly think he is, but always open to other opinions. But Lafayette is next up on the board. He has the Hero of Two Worlds ability, Rob, which is gains a unique endeavor reform, which grants an additional social policy slot, which is very good. Supporting this endeavor also grants the other leader an additional social policy slot. Not great. +1 combat strength for every tradition, but not policy, slotted in the government. +1 culture and happiness per age and settlements, doubled in distant lands. Lots to get through here. He also unlocks the French Empire and has a coastal seed preference. But Rob, at the end of the day, Lafayette is in governor tier at the back for us, kind of in that C tier. What do you think? I mean, there's not a lot that jumps off the page here for me.
I think he's complicated, and I think that can make him lower on tiers, but it's not just the complication. It's like you said, it can be good giving somebody a social policy, especially if you're playing with a friend. Great leader to have in that regard. But you can't trust the NPCs. We've talked about this. You can't. You just can't trust them. And giving them that is not great necessarily.
Yeah.
And not just that, but it's like, he is so bad in antiquity. I mean, holy moly. He gets stronger as the game goes on for sure. But and that's what's keeping him out of being a scrub tier. Because you're getting that +1 culture. Happiness. Per age and in your settlements, and it's doubled. But it's like you almost want to just like start in exploration age, or you almost want to just start as Lafayette and kind of just build a small little peninsula, civ, and then go off, settle somewhere else as quickly as you can the minute you get to exploration age. I don't like the idea that not only is he complicated, which is fine, but like are more complex, I should say, than other leaders, but it's like, I don't want to wait till the exploration age for you to be good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind if it said I'm going to rephrase that. I don't want to wait until the exploration age for there to be better exploration age leaders.
Yeah.
than you.
That's completely fair. Yep. Yeah. So we have Lafayette in governor tier pretty firmly. Let's move on to one of your favorites, though, Rob, Machiavelli. I'll let you read his little ability, but it's a good one.
Yeah, Il Principe? Yeah, Principe. Gain +3 influence per age. Gain 50 gold per age when your diplomatic action proposals are accepted, or 100 when they are rejected. Ignore relationship requirements for declaring formal wars, and you can levy military units from city-states you are not suzerain of. Wow. I picked him, I'm pretty sure, during our draft, one of our drafts. Machiavelli, which, by the way, you guys should go watch the drafts. They've been really fun. I don't know. I think it's the way that maybe future esports or competitive civilization should be played. Continuing on, though, you can just stack so much gold. So much. And it's like, oh, people don't really like you. Okay, well, I'm going to go levy all of the city-state, like, whoever's near you. I'm going to take their armies, because most of the time that's like all they have is just, a commander basically with a bunch of units.
Yep.
And then you're just stacking that, and you're just going to town, and you're getting that extra influence already, which is going to help you so much. He's such a unique playstyle, and he's also very, very flexible. Mm-hmm. I will be honest with you. You can get behind in military or in different tech trees, in civic trees. Like, there's no doubt about that. But you can make up with it by having money, right? I think next to production, money is probably one of the most important, resources in the game, right? If not the most important one. And there's nobody economically that stacks it like Machiavelli, to be honest with you. I'm disappointed, but we did end up putting him in immortal tier. I just think his flexibility is good. I think he can just make you so much money. You can do so much with money, right? Yeah. Like in this game, it's not like, money can't buy you happiness, right? Okay, that's real life. This is a video game. Money can't buy you happiness in this game where you can just buy whatever else you want. Seriously. And he almost turns into like a militaristic civ as well. So he's like almost hitting diplomatic, economic, and militaristic if you really want to. Oh, I love my little skeevy Machiavelli, man. Oh,
yeah, he's
man,
a bully.
He's scheming over there in the corner, and I love it. He's so much fun to play as.
I think he's a bully, absolutely. Especially because you can ignore requirements for formal wars. So your formal wars, your wars can be total surprises. And then you can levy units from city-states if you need to supplement those wars. So, like, to your point, he can be played very militaristically. You could also play him more on the back foot where you're just stacking gold through your diplomatic actions. So, from an adaptability standpoint, we like him. From a, I think, like from a pure gold perspective, he's very good. From a military perspective, he's very good. So, there's really not much to not like about Machiavelli. No starting bias, but, not enough to hurt him at all. So, Machiavelli firmly A tier. We just put him just behind Confucius. But that one is close. Between, there's tiers within the tiers, I think, to a degree. Confucius, Machiavelli, and Ada are very strong in A tier. You can make the case for all of them to be S tier, I think. Well, let's move on to the first of two Napoleons, Napoleon Emperor. And he gains a unique sanction, continental system, which reduces the trade route limit of the targeted leader to all other leaders by 1, causes a massive relationship penalty, and costs more to reject, plus 8 gold per age for every leader you are unfriendly or hostile with, can reject endeavors for free. So the absolute thorn in the side, you unlock the French Empire, and there's no starting bias. However, this still didn't move the needle for us enough to keep him out of scribe tier, just above J. Rizzi. Listen, the trade route thing is a total miss. I mean, for how little influence it costs to improve trade relations, to just do that, it just seems like you would. Now, again, the plus 8 gold per age for every leader you're unfriendly or hostile with, and rejecting endeavors for free, you're just going to become... It's good against stack, but you're just going to become isolated. I mean, people are just not going to interact with you. You're going to be having to spend the influence to go out, at least in like a multiplayer setting. AI might just do it because they're AI, but at least in a multiplayer setting is especially bad. And I think, by the way, just a quick caveat for our whole ranking, I didn't say this at the front, we're probably ranking this more for an AI game versus online multiplayer, because that's just what Rob and I play much, much more. So I guess there's some but this is even worse for online multiplayer, I would say, because people won't interact with you at all. So,
yeah,
not good, Rob.
He's horrible. He's horrible. It's just, there's just no other way to put it. I mean, like, look, like, on paper, and I think the idea behind him is interesting. But you're taking one of the most interesting leaders in history and making him a trade bully, and that's pretty much it. And it's like, even that isn't good. You're not really disrupting the way that trade works in this game. You're not disrupting very much. It's just more of an annoyance than anything else, right? It's the little kid who's hitting you in the knee, like, pay attention to me, which maybe that's ironically
that's kind of Napoleon.
Him. So, and that's just, but it's just not enough, right? It doesn't do, he did so many other great and terrible, but like he did. I mean, he's one of the most brilliant military minds and leader minds of all time. I mean, he brought the French Empire together in a very serious way. I mean, he almost conquered all of Europe, and this is what you come up with for him? Like, come on, man. I know he's got another one that we're going to talk about here, but lordy, this was just not great. Not really good, and everybody's going to hate you, but guess what that means? You're going to be at war all the time, and you're not going to have... There's nothing in this that helps you defend yourself whatsoever.
No war support, no combat strength in wars, like really nothing. You honestly don't want to be in wars. You just want people to be angry with you all the time, but not at war with you.
Which is stupid.
Which is really hard to do in this game, I feel.
Yeah, that's a terrible line to and then you may have allies who then betray you, and then they're at war and you didn't even get any gold out of it.
Yeah. Let's see if Napoleon the Revolutionary can turn this around for the little guy. He gives +1 movement for all land units. Defeating an enemy unit provides culture equal to 50% of its combat strength. Now, I will pause there. That can be absolutely cracked, especially on higher difficulties. The combat strength number can go really high, and if you're able to defeat units consistently with Napoleon the Revolutionary, this can go crazy. And I want to just say that before we put him in governor tier at the front, which is low. Again, to the point we made just a second ago, leaders that are good militaristically in this game have things that give you combat strength or give you war support to help you win these battles. This doesn't give you anything. This just expects you to win them. And then you get the culture. That is, I think, a hard sell in the face of the other military leaders in this game that are going to help you not just win battles, but dominate them more in mass. You're going to destroy more units in a multiplicative way with other leaders than you are with Napoleon the Revolutionary, in my opinion. So, governor feels good. I think you could maybe make a case that this is even lower, but we went with governor tier ahead of old Ben Franklin.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this. He is... Unfortunately, I just don't think he's just very good. I mean, the +1 movement for land units, by the way, is actually pretty strong. To be honest with you guys, like that can be very good. I think I paired him with, might have been Bulgaria, potentially, when that civ came out. I can't remember. One of them, I thought about it, or I did end up doing it just because, like, I think there was an extra movement for land units or cavalry units specifically. Maybe it was in that one. And it's like, you pair that with him, like, then you're flying around the map. You know, you can get to anywhere, you can be in any fight. That can make Napoleon Revolutionary very good. The problem is like you said, you gotta just be a great strategic mind. And it's like, you're definitely gonna be that if you're playing this game, most likely. But it's very dependent that you're not playing on a too high of a difficulty where you're just gonna get rolled. Because, like, I was recording some stuff the other day. I thought I had like 15 units when I went to war against Ashoka, and somehow within 5 turns of, because I did an early start in the exploration age, somehow Ashoka had like 30 units and just rolled me. I was like, okay, well, I guess this playthrough is over. I played it for, I think, 45 minutes, and I was like, well, I guess I'm done.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta start over on that one. It's like, I'm pretty good at military. I've been
it's your playstyle.
Run everybody over in 5 and 6 very easily. Even 7, it's not been too terrible in terms of battles for me. But it's like, boy, oh boy, you're gonna have to be like the mind of the century, to win these battles. And I just think that's just too much. He's not terrible, but he's just not.
Yeah, of the military leaders,
better.
Yeah, just other good choices, I think. Just honestly, just that you can go with if you want to play military or even culturally. I think of Augustus compared to him; it's just so superior in every way.
Yeah.
Let's go to one of my favorite leaders. That's going to be Pachacuti. This is actually who Rob and I, in our first multiplayer, he played Machiavelli and I played Pachacuti. So a bit nostalgic here, going back to the OG days of Civ 7, which we're still basically in, but anyway. He has the Earthshaker ability, which is all buildings gain a food adjacency for mountains. Specialists adjacent to mountains do not cost happiness maintenance. So he obviously has a mountain starting bias and has obvious synergies with like the Incans, Nepal, things like that. Honestly, though, as much as I love this leader, as much as I love the idea of just having your mountain whole and defending it and just having this crazy territory in the mountains, he is in scribe tier definitively, just behind one of the Ashokas there. It just doesn't feel... There's not a lot to say with Pachacuti, I don't think, Rob. It just doesn't feel good. Not only is food not really a great thing to be getting for your mountain tiles, but, being near mountain tiles can also just be really inconvenient, even for you. Now, defensively, no doubt it's good. But it's just, what are you doing with that defensive strength? Not much, where it feels like other leaders who are playing defensive, like Harriet Tubman, for example, who I think vegetated is better than mountainous. I think +5 war support on wars declared against you is better than anything that Pachacuti's got. So it's like, they're in different stratospheres for playing very similarly, so it just feels like he has to be inscribed here.
I think Gimli would like him a lot. He's the king of the mountain.
That's true. We need to get Gimli on Civ 7, dude.
Yeah, why not, right? He's basically that. I guess not really, but you know what I mean. Look, they made Nepal for Pachacuti to give you a late game civ to be, kudos. Love that for them. But he's just food adjacency, yay!
Yeah.
Food adjacency for mountains, super yay.
That's it.
Okay. Specialists adjacent to mountains don't cost you happiness. Oh no.
Yeah. When have I ever
There's-
struggled with any of those things? Never. You know?
That's the point. Yeah, there's just, you're not gaining much from that. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to kind of combine it with either.
Yeah.
It's really sad because like having a mountain king would be sick. But the problem is that like your mountains are only one tile, right? Or they're 3 or 4, and it's like, yeah, you put one city near the mountain and then you're kind of done. Like, I don't know. It's not terrible in the sense that like if you really want to go hard as the true mountain king, go for it.
Yeah.
Right? But like you're gonna have a difficult time winning that game for sure. He just isn't. He doesn't feel good. He doesn't sync as well as you would like either. Like even if it was production instead of food, I think that would make him immensely better. If it was like, honestly, if they cut out the specialist part and just made it production and food, he would be better.
Stonks would go up.
But he's not.
Yeah, I also think you could give him a starting bias for natural wonders, like mountainous natural wonders, and that would help him. I mean, if he was like a food production Isabella that's more mountain specific, that all of a sudden feels very good.
Yes.
But again, just I desperately want him to work. I want to do like a mountain playthrough where I go all in for that, but just feels like it would not be that fun at the end of the day. Someone though who I do think
is Gimli.
Yes. So, no, seriously, that Gimli is a great shout. But the newest leader is up next. Simon Bolivar has by the way, the best color palette of any leader in the game as far as like how the UI looks, like the blue and yellow. Oh, chef's kiss. Okay. Absolute goated color combo for him. He gains +1 war support on all wars. Upon conquering a settlement for the first time, you can purchase 1 constructible building for free, and unrest does not prevent purchasing. So for all the military heads out there, there's a lot of really good quality of life stuff here. 1 war support on all wars is a nice kind of blanket amount. And that's going to be enough for us to put him in B tier behind Catherine the Great. And I think we actually go ahead and put him above the other Ashoka that we had bumped up. I think the case could be made for either one of those kind of being right there. But yeah, Simone feels very good. I mean, just really well-rounded from a militaristic standpoint. You get Mexico in the modern age, which is a very good civ. So yeah, a lot to like here.
Yeah, it feels like he pairs well with other civs that you want to, and other leaders that you want to snowball. Right? You get that 1 support blanket, like you said, very nice. You're taking city, settlements for the first time. You're getting the free constructible, building, which is great. By the way, that helps you set those towns up very much. And then, like you said, the unrest, you're not wasting those turns waiting for the unrest to go away. You can start building things out and getting things more established. I think he's really good. I don't think he's like fantastic, which is why we have him in the middle there.
Yeah.
But like, I think with the right civ combinations, he can be good. With the right armies, he can be good. I just don't know that he's great. He's just very good. I'm cool with him.
Yeah, I think from a military perspective, one of the more adaptable ones, even if he isn't necessarily the strongest military leader, but he's certainly very just kind of chameleon, can be in any context, right?
I agree.
Let's go down next to one of my favorite leaders that I think Rob and I maybe, again, have some different opinions on, and that's Tecumseh. He gets +1 food and production per age in settlements for every city-state you are suzerain of, +1 combat strength for all your units for every city-state you're suzerain of. That's a tongue twister every time. He gets a grassland or plain start, and he gets a lot of unlocks. Shawnee, American, Mexican. I think we have Tecumseh in, I believe, sovereign tier above or right behind that Himiko. I actually, if this were just my tier list, just little old me over here, I would have Tecumseh in A, 1 tier up. I understand. I think that's a ceiling. I don't think there's any world you can argue that Tecumseh is S tier. That's pretty ludicrous.
No.
But I'd actually just put out a video on this. A couple videos about influence, how you can kind of bully with it. I think influence, there's a conversation at least, where influence is just as good as production, I think. I think it's something that the entire, or at least a bulk of the Civ community is sleeping on. And if that's the case, Machiavelli stonks go up, and Tecumseh stonks go up. Because especially for Tecumseh, if you can get 4 to 5 city-states to your suzerain of every age, which is not that hard to do. Especially if you use certain civs, like maybe, I think he's got, or maybe Greece has some unlocks where it discounts the cost of doing that befriend city-state interaction by 50%. You can just spam it that way, get all of the ones around you, as long as you can scout early in every age, which is really just important in antiquity. You should be getting 5 food and production in settlements. So that's cities and towns. So that's +5 of each, +5 combat strength to all your units, blanket, not just, a lot of these other leaders have combat strengths that are like, oh, in fortified districts, or oh, in vegetated tiles, oh, here or there. Tecumseh is everywhere. So this is, if you can get suzerain status of at least 3 city-states, I think he goes crazy. Now, again, there's a big if there. If you get beat to any of those, if people run over the city-states or whatever, he becomes terrible. So his floor could be D tier, but his ceiling, I think, is A. We have him in B. Rob, what do you think?
He's very risky. And here's what I'll say. I love that you love him. I was playing through, I think it was in my even Battuta playthrough. And I was like 1 turn away from suzerain of a city-state. And Himiko destroyed it. Here's my issues with him. You're not naturally getting more influence in any way, shape, or form within his kit, which is very hard. Not just that, but like you actively are going to have people dislike you. You have to favor city-states more than other leaders. And that's good. You're going to have to save your influence for city-states, which is going to make it so that you're not trading as much. You're not able to get culture bonuses or military bonuses or gold bonuses. You are fully on your own. I think Tecumseh, funny enough, even though he goes to America, wouldn't be too bad for like Great Britain, once you get to the end of, into the modern age. But like, he's just missing just a little bit. He's missing a little bit from being absolutely in crazy, crazy tier, like you said. But dude, if I'm like playing, if I had seen you playing Tecumseh and I wanted to counter you, I would just go Machiavelli. He's just better in every way, and I would just overtake you, as suzerains so quickly. And even if you didn't, I would just take their military from you before you get a chance and go attack you with it. Yeah. Like, there's just, like, he's just... And even if I wasn't playing as Machiavelli, which I think is a hard counter to Tecumseh, if I'm playing as quite literally any other civilization or leader, I just go and destroy them. They're not strong enough anymore like they used to be, where it was like, oh, it was kind of tough to take city-states. Yeah, now you can just kind of just up right over them. So I if you're going military, right, or if you're just trying to stop that, if you are uncontested, very good.
Yeah. Now, PvP...
But you're not going to be uncontested.
PvP, I think Tecumseh is bad. I don't think he's very good. I think
that's a nice way to put it.
In this conversation, I think it's very much the case that I don't think the AI is necessarily smart enough to always try and beat you to these city-state relationships, or just have the knowledge to wipe them out. So this is a little bit of a, maybe slightly leaning towards the way, just playing versus the AI like we usually do. I'm with you, though, 100%. He feels like he is so counterable in PvP that it would be honestly abysmal to play. Maybe there's still ways you could do it, but it seems like it would be very tough.
Not being enjoyable.
Let's go to another bully on the board here, and that is Trung Trac. You want to take this one, Rob?
Yeah, man, Trung Trac. Wow. Hi by Trung, I think. Hi by Trung, something like that. +3 promotions on your first army commander. Your commanders gain +20 experience, +10% science in cities on tropical tiles. This bonus is doubled during any formal war you declare. Another one of those, you gotta be at war all the time, but guess what? It don't matter, because you already have one of the best army commanders you could possibly get. You pair her with Rome, you are gonna be in trouble in antiquity. Not you, but everybody else. You're the +20 experience is nuts. There are some that you're like, you don't, it doesn't move the needle for you. That moves the needle for you.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant, right? Not just that, but like you're getting the science. You're already going to be, biased towards these tropical tiles anyways. And not to mention the fact that in the exploration age, right, you're going to see a lot of tropical tiles as you go to other places and settle on these islands, as you're settling on these coasts, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that it's doubled when you are at war, because you probably will be to take those said tiles if you need to during the exploration age,
Yep.
or during antiquity if you want to get yourself in a good spot. Yeah, like she's limited in terms of like you gotta kind of be on the coast, right? If you're gonna make your way inland, you gotta have your commanders and your army really ready. You probably got to be a little bit ahead in military, but dude, she is quite fun. She is very strong. I have no problem putting her in immortal tier right now. I actually almost think we have her a little too low.
There's a case
to be honest with you, within immortal tier, I'm not going to move her up right now. I don't even know if I will in general, but she is she's very strong.
Yeah.
Might be one of the 10 best leaders in the game. I think actually with our tier list, she's
right there
in the top 10. She's right there. So
yeah,
there you go.
I'm with you. I think that there are a lot of civs that pair really well with this. But I mean, if you can just be in a war, even if you're not necessarily fighting in it, just staying in it and just not letting the other person negotiate peace, if you can handle the war weariness, you can just really get some great bonuses. And so, especially if you're formally declaring that kind of staying in one, rotating, as soon as it starts to be too cumbersome, try and negotiate peace, start one with another civ, and just kind of chain those things together, it can be very strong. I'm with you. I think the vegetated and tropical starting biases are the best in the game.
So good.
Another reason I like Harriet Tubman quite a bit. But yeah, I think I'm with you. Trung Trac feels like a top 2 or 3 military civ, maybe the best. And so A tier feels really good. A case we made to move her up a little bit. I think being above even her Himiko could easily be something that we do. But I think that's kind of a tight grouping as well in my mind a little bit. As well with one of our final ones coming up. Spoiler. But
we got 2 more.
Yep,
down to the last 2.
Closing this thing out, we got 2 more, and then we'll do our final moves. As a reminder, we each get to move 1 leader. We've not told the other person what this is, so just stay tuned to see what that is. But let's go King of Kings first, Rob. He has the Crusher of Rebellions ability, which gives him +3 combat strengths for units you're attacking that are in neutral or enemy territory. Very good. +100 culture and gold per age upon capturing a settlement for the first time. +10% gold in all settlements. Doubled in settlements not founded by you. +1 settlement limit per age. This is a ton. You get desert starting preference. We actually have King of Kings right above Trung Trac. No, we don't. I'm misseeing that. We have him behind Catherine, I think. Right? Yes, we do. In sovereign tier. As soon as I was saying that, I was like, I don't think this is where we have him. So this is good. This still feels really good. I mean, you're going to be playing on the front foot militaristically. You're going to be going after settlements, getting the +3 combat strength. We talked about with these military leaders. An ideal system, you're getting things to make you fight better and stronger. That way you can you need to be rolling through things as quickly as possible to really play this, this style effectively, I think. So this is a great way to have it. The settlement limit's nice. The gold, culture and gold when you're capturing a settlement for the first time is a great little stimulus that gets thrown in. So I'm a big fan of it. I've actually not played a ton of King of Kings, but reading through this again on paper, this just looks so good.
He's insanely strong. The problem is, though, is of the snowbally leaders, he is the most snowbally, right? In terms of if you get going, it's hard to stop him. If you are a military person and this is you're new to the game or you're wanting to get into military, like you just go ham with him, right? Because you are just going on the attack, on the attack, on the attack. The problem is if you lose that war, you are on the back foot. You are losing that combat bonus. You are in trouble. You are having to try to push them out of your area as best as you can. But those things stack so much. You get to the modern age, dude, you're printing gold and culture. You really are.
Yeah.
And you're getting that +1 settlement limit like automatically per age, right? So by the end, you got that +3, which is great. It's just that you can also overextend very easily with King of Kings.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like if somebody just comes in and jackknifes you in the middle of your empire, you're in trouble. Like there are a lot of different parts to him that, he's got these, he is truly not the double-edged sword. He is very much he is very pointy at the tip and completely beatable beyond that, right? So that, he's a spear, I guess, is maybe what you'd want to call him, to be honest with you. And it is like, it's very hit or miss. You are playing very much risky, very aggro. You're pissing off pretty much everybody else in the game for the most part, and you got to do it early if you want to start getting these things. And then you're going to have to hope. I mean, I will say, though, there is not a civ in the game that you could win by the Exploration Age better than Xerxes, King of Kings. Because if you roll your own continent in antiquity, for the most part, by the time you get to Exploration Age, you can just head right on over into that next continent and try to run it over as well and basically win the game before the end of that. But you're gonna, but again, you have to be doing that the entire time. It's kind of an exhausting way to play, weirdly enough. If you're looking for a cozy game, Xerxes King of King is not that guy.
Yeah, you have to accept that a lot of yields in your empire are going to look pretty poor, like especially things to do with science. Horrible. There's just not going to be a lot going on. You're going to be relying on other people doing that for you, and then you taking their cities. That's I think the way this works. But yeah,
you can buy some of it, but it's still not a lot.
True. But speaking of buying, Rob, this is a leader that our last leader, Xerxes the Achaemenid, is one that you and I are really bullish on. Despite I don't think we share the sentiment with a lot of people in the community, but we actually have Xerxes the Achaemenid in A tier, right above Trung Trac, actually. In between her and Eben, right? Yep.
Yeah.
This is one that you and I have both played and both had a lot of success on, honestly.
Love it.
For his ability, by the way, is Silk Road, +1 trade route limit with all other leaders, +50 culture and 100 gold per age when you create a trade route or road, +1 culture and gold per age on unique buildings and unique improvements. So this encourages you to do a lot of different things. I mean, first of all, we're not huge on the trade route limit increasing or decreasing. That's not that big of a deal here. But having it flat across all leaders is pretty nice because that saves you a ton of influence you'd otherwise have to spend. And you can just go crazy trying to get as many, trades out there as possible, basically. Like Axum, I think, is who you and I both played him with in the Antiquity Age. Feels very good.
So good.
And then, the culture and gold per age when you create a trade route or road. I mean, you're going to have 2 per each leader that you can do. So that, I mean, if you can find 3 leaders you can trade with, that could be 300 culture and 600 gold. So that just feels really good. A lot to like about him, though, Rob. I think.
Well, when you're pairing him and you're getting those, gold and culture bonuses for unique buildings and improvements, that's crazy good with some of these civs, to be honest with you. I think the flat trade route makes him so that he can be played kind of with any civ, to be honest with you, if you want. You're getting the culture, you're getting the gold as well, like we just talked about. I think he's super strong, to be honest with you. I think, again, I value flexibility. Some of you may not. But even if you decide to go down a cultural path or an economic path, both very strong in the game, to be honest with you. If you can't tell, culture is, I think, very important in this game, to say the least.
Yep.
And he's very good at it, and he can buy his way to other things. You need a military? Okay, well, I got a crap ton of gold. I got plenty of different trade routes that are giving me, so many bonuses into so many of my cities with all these different resources. Especially as they're going to apparently start adding more resources to the game in the future that will give you all these other buffs as well. I think it's fantastic, personally. I think he's really good. Civ devs, if you want to know how to make a great leader that has 2 different personas, this is how you do it. Not the Napoleon way, the Xerxes way. Yeah. 2 very, I think, distinct, very interesting ones that you can play with. Like either one you can play with just about anything, and I think that they can be good to a certain degree. So
so
very strong.
This brings us to our completed tier list, Rob. We've got only 3 leaders in S tier. We've got, I think, 7 in A, 8 in B, and then 5 in C and D. I think this is honestly, everyone disagrees about tier lists. They're always a fun point of contention and conversation because everyone has had different experience with different leaders. There's a lot of subjectivity here. If there was an objective tier list, everyone would just play the same, 3 top characters, right? But I do think this is reflective of the game right now. I think we've seen a lot of people playing with these kind of S tier and A tier hero, or I keep saying heroes because I've been playing a lot of Deadlock, but leaders. and not as much talked about with some of the lower ones. However, I want to give us each a chance to make one final move on the chessboard of this tier list, moving one leader up or down one tier. Rob, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have your leader that you'd like to move up or down? If not, I can do mine first.
Yeah, I've been kind of going back and forth. I'm going to name a few that I've been looking at.
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about this.
I'm looking at Confucius. I've been looking at Machiavelli. I've been looking at both Xerxes and Trung Trac even a little bit, to be honest with you.
Wow, okay, yeah.
But there's one that I think you and I will both agree might need a little bit more love. Or Conqueror.
Okay.
I think needs to get moved up one, to be honest.
That's so funny. Man.
Is that who you were looking at too?
Yep. That's okay though. I have a second one. But yes, that was, look at us.
Good.
Great minds think alike. So I put him at the end of A tier. I think that's a fair bump up. That puts him in an elite 3 company here, where you have.
Wait, you moved him from C to A?
Oh, I thought you had B to A.
Ashoka.
Yeah, so we had Ashoka originally in C.
Oh yeah, you already moved him. Yeah, you're right. You moved him up to B. Yeah, I'm still okay to move him up to A. Actually, I'm okay with that. To be honest,
we can also just go top of B. I mean, I'm fine either way. A feels really like it's a big jump.
Bottom of A. Bottom of A.
Let's do bottom of A.
I feel better to put him there. It's just
yeah.
Production is so good. It's very good, and that +5 combat strength against districts, that can be so strong. Declaring a formal war to automatically get that celebration, I think, is pretty good too.
I think what you and I both...
Maybe I should have kept him in B, but I'm okay with him working his way to the bottom of A, because I just think that he's better. Like we talked about other military and civs and whatnot. I just think, actually, you know what? Wait.
So for context, in the military conversation, he is currently sandwiched between Trung Trac and Xerxes, King of Kings. Do we think that's accurate?
No, because you know what? I think I was going on him being in C. I forgot that we had moved him up to B.
Okay.
I apologize, everybody. I made a mistake.
That's okay. We did a live change, so it altered from the image that we were working with kind of previously, so it makes sense. But
yeah, you know what? I am still gonna kind of stick in that range, though. I'm gonna move Xerxes up.
Xerxes, King of Kings up instead?
Yeah, I think King of Kings is still pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, that +1 settlement limit alone per age is quite strong. He's probably the best one if you want to go full Conqueror. Yeah. He probably has no equal in terms of being able to have. I think he is the highest combination for most settlements in the game.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
That. Yeah.
So, I'm fine with moving him up. That's going to be mine. I'm not going to explain it much more than that.
That's fair. So we've got King of Kings moved up behind Trung Trac. So we got both Xerxes in A tier. That's kind of fun. We went ahead and moved Ashoka back down to B tier. And now it's on me. And I think our S tier is looking a little lonely. You know, those 3 leaders up there.
Oh no, you did it.
We've got to bump one up. So I'll talk about my choices as well. So one, I actually considered Ashoka World Conqueror going to A tier. So I mean, you had almost taken exactly what I was thinking of. But even in asking that question, I didn't feel like he was significantly stronger than Xerxes King of Kings. So this actually makes sense to me.
Yeah.
The other one I was considering was Catherine to A tier. Not like top of A tier, but probably bottom. I don't think that's as important, though, as moving up one of the 3, Confucius, Machiavelli, or Ada Lovelace. I think those 3, for me, are really, really strong. However, I think that Harriet Tubman still outclasses Confucius with science for me. That's just for me. Again, I recognize there are...
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Different ways to play with this, right? I think from a kind of like gold influence generalist perspective, I think Machiavelli is a little outclassed, maybe by Isabella and Augustus, maybe. But for a culture science 1-2, I really think Ada Lovelace is in a tier of her own. So I am going to move Ada Lovelace up to S tier behind Isabella. This is going to be a hot take, and this will be one that I think people probably will disagree with wholeheartedly, and that's fine. But I do think that ability, if you can get both online and really tick through those masteries, it feels crazy. I mean, you're just flying through, and there's other things in the game you can pair this with too. I mean, there's a lot you can synergize with this as far as like what unlocking masteries can do for you. I know there's several civs that interact with that as well. just feels really good. Great Britain's also a great unlock. It feels a bit weird having Ada above Confucius and Machiavelli, but I think when you're playing the comparison game, it makes sense. I think because Augustus, Harriet Tubman, and Isabella exist, it kind of naturally keeps Confucius and Machiavelli down a little bit. Machiavelli is one where I also could see being S tier truly. I think Confucius is solidly A, but yeah. Anyway, that's enough of a ramble for me. This is our, for at least the time being, final tier list 2.0, April 2025. We've been recording for about an hour and a half, Rob. I know you and I are both exhausted. Final thoughts on the tier list before we close this one out.
We will probably do more as more leaders and stuff come out, as the game patches, because they're patching this game pretty frequently. I think we'll have to take into consideration legacy patch changes. There will be so many other things that will change. So we will make another one of these at some point. We didn't want to do this until we felt like we had played a lot more of the game. There had been more things that had been established. We're not getting any new patches for a little while here. And we had 2 new leaders, so it felt good to do this. And I'm happy with where we're at. I would love to put Machiavelli up there. I was super close to doing it, to be honest with you. Yeah. I do think he's got some limitations, to be honest with you, but he's very fun to play, and I'm happy with this. And most of these leaders are pretty good in one way or another. And I was really close to almost moving up the other Ashoka as well. World Renouncer. So there are some, I think, leaders that are better in some certain situations than others. I know we valued flexibility a lot, but I think that's important when you're considering these kinds of tier lists. So, just because something's really strong with one thing, or if one thing goes right, you want to be able to adapt. You want to be able to do things differently, especially in a game that is just, it's not like you're playing a very straight-lined game. Civilization, no game is ever the same. So that flexibility can be nice. So, I'm happy with this tier list, honestly. I can't wait to get destroyed in the comment section. Bring it on, guys. Let's go.
Always love it. We will we'll get this out. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in. I'm happy with the list as well. I think it represents a lot of different play styles. I think you can see any kind of way of playing Civ in every tier. And that's also important to us because I have a specific, I love diplomacy and science and culture. Rob plays a lot more economic, militaristic. Like, Rob and I really kind of exemplify a lot of the different ways to play and the way him and I both approach the game usually. So I think that's well represented here. Let us know, though, in the comments what you think of this, if there are any big changes you'd make. And we hope this has been informative. We hope it's been entertaining. And we are loving making the Civ content for you all. We've really enjoyed Civ House so far. We've built a nice little community here, and we really like everyone. Thanks for bearing with us for the April Fool's joke. We had a lot of fun with it. Mixed feelings about it, but hey, that's how April Fool's jokes go. Some people hate them, some people love them. It is what it is. Rob and I like to have a good time with this stuff, though, so we hope it was lighthearted enough. We love this game, though, to be clear. Critical of it in parts, but want to overall have positive sentiments about the game. Because Rob and I know how exhausting it can be in gaming when people are just pessimistic all the time. It can be very, very frustrating.
Overwatch. Yeah,
Overwatch. Good lord. We lived through that. But thank you all for tuning in for this marathon. Hope you all, if you're still watching at this point, kudos to you. For those that have already checked out, missing out on Rob and I's beautiful faces. But in any case, from our house to yours, guys, we hope you'll join us for one more turn, one more tier list, one more video here at Civ House. We'll see you next time.